My friend, listen carefully. All around us, people are chasing mastery, running after it as if it were some distant treasure hidden at the end of a long road. They think it can be measured in hours, trophies, or titles. They believe that by copying what another man has done, they can reproduce his greatness. But I tell you this, you cannot copy truth because truth lives only in direct experience. Most people focus on what to learn. They want lists, routines, formulas, ways to feel secure. But mastery has nothing to do with security. It begins where security ends. It begins when you start asking questions that disturb you. You see, the mind is clever at pretending. It loves to look busy, to appear in control. It memorizes techniques, philosophies, even words of wisdom, but it doesn't live them. Many know about truth, yet they never touch it. When I was a boy, I studied everything. Wing Chun, fencing, boxing, philosophy. I absorbed everything I could find, but one day I realized something strange. The more I learned, the more I felt trapped. My movements became mechanical, my thinking rigid. I was imitating a collection of men instead of discovering my own nature. I used to practice the same punch thousands of times. My knuckles bled, my shoulders burned. People looked at me and said, "That is discipline." But deep inside, I felt empty. I was mastering repetition, not understanding. One night, during practice, I stopped and asked myself, why do I move this way? Why this stance? Why this sequence? I realized that I had never asked those questions before. I had trusted tradition more than truth. That moment changed everything. The next day, I began testing. I altered my stance, shifted my timing, questioned every principle. Some things fell apart immediately, others grew stronger. For the first time, I felt alive in my training. I had stepped out of imitation and into understanding. That is the birth of mastery, not when you repeat perfectly, but when you question courageously. I remember one student, disciplined, serious, always the first to arrive, the last to leave. He copied me in every way. He even cut his hair like mine, ate like me, trained like me. But when we sparred, something was missing. His movements were correct, but lifeless. I told him, "You are copying my form, but not my mind. You move like me, but you don't think like me." He said, "Then teach me how you think." I said, "I can't. You must discover it." Because thought cannot be handed down, it must be born through your own observation. A teacher can point at the moon, but he cannot make you see it. That is why I say, stop memorizing and start understanding. Knowledge, my friend, is like food. It must be digested before it gives you strength. You can swallow a library and still die of starvation. The world is full of people collecting knowledge, but starving for understanding. They quote, they analyze, they repeat. Yet when reality strikes, they crumble. Why? Because they never tested what they know. Truth survives pressure. Everything else is opinion. Reality is the final judge. It does not care about your reputation, your style, your tradition. When the storm comes, it will test everything you have built. If your foundation is imitation, it will fall. People saw it as just a contest between two men, but to me it was a test between two philosophies. My opponent followed a strict traditional system. Every move was precise, every response prearranged. He fought as if the world obeyed his rules. But combat, my friend, obeys no rules. It is fluid, chaotic, alive. It is a conversation, not a script, and in that chaos, rigidity is death. He was trapped by his own training. Every action predictable, every defense delayed by thought. I moved freely, without pattern, without hesitation. I was not following a system, I was following truth. That day, I didn't just win a fight, I broke a prison. Afterward, I realized that martial artists everywhere were repeating the same mistake, worshipping the form instead of the function, defending the system instead of the truth. They were loyal to style, not to effectiveness. That realization was the seed of Jeet Kune Do, not another style, but the death of style. People misunderstand this. They think Jeet Kune Do is a collection of techniques. It is not. It is an attitude, a living process of testing, adapting, refining. When you name something, you limit it. When you define yourself, you build a wall. I wanted no walls. I wanted to flow freely through experience, keeping only what was true. Jeet Kune Do is the art of honest expression. It says, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, add what is uniquely your own. That is not rebellion, that is evolution. You see, a system is comfortable because it removes responsibility. When someone gives you a path, you no longer need to think, you just follow. But the moment you step off the path, you are alone, and that is frightening. Yet only there, in that uncertainty, can you meet yourself. That is where true freedom begins. Freedom is not the absence of discipline. Freedom is disciplined truth. To be free, you must understand the rules deeply enough to break them intelligently. When I first began teaching, many students came to me asking for a new system. They wanted charts, levels, belts. I told them, there are no levels here. There is only testing. There is only discovery. Some left because they wanted structure, but those who stayed learned something priceless, how to think for themselves. Let me tell you something important. Most people want certainty more than truth. Certainty is comforting. Truth is uncomfortable. Certainty keeps you where you are. Truth pushes you into the unknown. The man who chooses truth over certainty will be misunderstood, criticized, even hated, but he will grow. When I broke away from traditional martial arts, I was called disrespectful, arrogant, even ungrateful. But I wasn't rejecting my teachers. I was honoring the spirit of their teaching. They had once been revolutionaries too, but over time, their discoveries turned into dogma. I simply continued the questioning they had begun. That is what every generation must do, to test the past against the present, to keep what still works and discard what doesn't. Otherwise, progress dies. And that, my friend, is the foundation of all mastery. To question everything is not to destroy blindly, but to refine wisely. Because questioning is the heartbeat of evolution. My friend, when you begin to question everything, you begin to see how much of your life has been built on imitation. You start to recognize the invisible cages around you, the habits you never examined, the rules you never agreed to, the limits you never tested. The tragedy is that most people spend their lives reinforcing those cages. They mistake repetition for progress. They polish their chains until they shine. But freedom, real freedom, begins the moment you dare to ask, why? I used to know hundreds of techniques. I practiced until I could recite them in my sleep. I thought the more I knew, the stronger I would become. Then during a street fight, everything I had memorized disappeared. My body didn't recall the drills. It recalled only what was true. 4 techniques remained: simple, direct, efficient. The rest vanished like smoke. That night I understood. Knowledge collects, but wisdom selects. Mastery is not about knowing more. It's about needing less. You see, when the mind is full of clutter, it hesitates. It tries to choose between 100 options, while reality demands one. And hesitation is death, not just in combat, but in life. So I began what I called the subtraction process. Every month, I removed something from my training. A movement, a stance, an assumption. If it didn't prove itself under resistance, it was gone. My art became lighter, faster, purer. Simplicity, I discovered, is not the opposite of complexity. It is the refinement of it. The more you subtract, the closer you get to the essence. People often ask, Bruce, what is the secret to speed? And I tell them, remove the unnecessary. Speed is not about moving faster. It's about removing the delay between intention and action. In life too, remove the unnecessary. Remove the opinions that slow you. Remove the fears that freeze you. Remove the need to impress, the need to conform, the need to be approved. When you cut away the inessential, what remains is truth, and truth moves fast. But this process demands courage, because the moment you start discarding, the world begins to question you. They will say you are arrogant for rejecting tradition. They will call you reckless for breaking rules. But understand this, innovation always looks like rebellion from the outside. When I began mixing arts, boxing with Wing Chun, fencing with Kung Fu, many said, you cannot do that. It is against the way. I said, whose way? The way or your way? They were defending the dead. I was serving the living. They said, if you train for strength, you will lose speed. I said, let's test it. And I tested it scientifically, ruthlessly. After months of training, I was not slower. I was faster, more explosive. The myth was broken. You see, limits are rarely real. They are myths repeated so often that people mistake them for laws. But nature has no such laws. It has only consequences. If something works, it lives. If it fails, it dies. That is evolution. So don't fear limits. Test them. Every time you test one, you expand your freedom. That is where true freedom begins. When they told me that a Chinese man could never be a star in America, I didn't argue. I simply became undeniable. I proved that presence, truth, and excellence have no nationality. A barrier is real only until someone crosses it. Remember this: the walls you face are made of words, not stone. If you believe them, they hold you. If you test them, they crumble. That is why I say, limits exist only for those who refuse to test them. My friend, most people fear testing because testing exposes weakness. And ego cannot bear weakness. But the wise man welcomes it. Because every weakness you discover is a doorway to strength. When I fail, I don't curse. I analyze. I ask, why did it fail? Each failure removes illusion and brings me closer to reality. So do not be afraid to look foolish. Do not be afraid to start again. Truth is worth more than pride. There is a story I tell my students. A man keeps filling his cup with tea until it overflows. The master says, how can you learn anything new if your cup is already full? To learn, you must first empty your cup. But people forget the second lesson. Once you empty it, you must fill it again with your own experience. Do not live on borrowed truth. The truth that freed me may not free you in the same way. You must test it in your own fire, temper it in your own struggle. That is why I always say, Jeet Kune is not my style. It is a mirror. When you look into it honestly, you see yourself. But few people want to see themselves. They prefer reflection to revelation. They would rather imitate than understand, because understanding is dangerous. It destroys illusion. To understand, you must face uncertainty. You must admit, I do not know. That is the most powerful admission a human being can make. The beginner's mind open. curious, fearless. That is where growth happens. In my own journey, I have often returned to being a beginner. After I thought I had found the way, I would destroy it and start again. I did this with my training, my teaching, even my philosophy. Each destruction made me freer. Destruction is not violence. It is renewal. Fire does not only burn, it clears the field for new growth. So burn what no longer serves you. Burn the beliefs that cage you. Burn the need to be right. Only through destruction can you rebuild truth. I remember when I first brought realistic fighting to cinema, they said, "This won't work." The audience wants fantasy, but I knew something deeper. The audience wants honesty. So I showed real impact, real rhythm, real emotion. And when people saw it, they felt something new, because truth, when revealed, speaks directly to the soul. That principle guided every part of my life. Whether I was fighting, teaching, acting, or writing, I asked the same question. Does it work? Does it look good? Or does it please others? But does it work in reality? That question became my compass. Ask yourself that question every day. If a belief doesn't work under pressure, discard it. If a habit weakens you, discard it. If a relationship kills your growth, let it go. Discard ruthlessly, because what is false steals the energy of what is true. You see, testing is not limited to combat. It is a way of life. Test your patience under stress. Test your kindness when you are angry. Test your discipline when no one is watching. Only then will you know who you are. Testing reveals truth. Pretending hides it. And most people prefer pretending because pretending feels safe. But safety is a slow death. To live fully, you must risk being wrong. You must risk falling. You must risk losing everything that is false. That is how the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, through the destruction of the old form. That is how a student becomes a master, through the destruction of imitation. But even then, mastery is not an end. It is a circle that never stops turning. Each time you think you have reached the summit, a new mountain appears. And that is beautiful, because growth never ends. When I look back, I realize that every major leap in my life began with doubt. Doubt forced me to test. Testing revealed truth. Truth created freedom. Freedom gave birth to new doubt, and the process began again. That is mastery. A living cycle of questioning, testing, refining, and rebirth. You can apply this to anything: business, art, relationships, personal growth. If you truly understand the principle, it works everywhere. Because truth is universal. If it is true in combat, it is true in life. If it is true in physics, it is true in emotion. Reality does not contradict itself. You must only be honest enough to see the connection. So, my friend, remember, testing is not doubting life. It is honoring it. When you test, you engage directly with reality. You stop living second-hand. And when you live firsthand, you begin to feel a new kind of energy. Clear, powerful, peaceful. That is the energy of understanding. Most people exhaust themselves pretending. Understanding relaxes you. It makes your movement effortless because it aligns you with what is. When your punch expresses truth, it feels natural. When your life expresses truth, it feels free. That is the essence of mastery, harmony between thought, action, and reality. My friend, let us go deeper. We have spoken about questioning, about testing, about stripping away illusions. But what remains when everything false has been burned away? What is left when all imitation dies? What remains is you, not the image the world created, not the name, not the role, you. The authentic self that needs no approval, no label, no permission. You see, most people spend their lives being reflections of others. They wear the mask of society, the mask of culture, the mask of expectation. But a mask, no matter how beautiful, is still a barrier between you and reality. Take it off, and the air of truth may sting for a moment, but soon you will breathe freely. When I was building my path, people around me often said, "Bruce, slow down, follow the system, don't break tradition." But if I had listened, I would have become another copy of the past. Tradition can be a compass, yes, but it can also be an anchor. The past is a teacher, not a master. I honor my teachers. I always will. But true respect is not blind obedience. It is evolution. A student who merely repeats what his teacher said is not honoring him. He is embalming him. To keep the spirit of teaching alive, you must add your own discovery to it. That is what I mean when I say, use what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is uniquely your own. This is not arrogance, it is authenticity. Each person must find his own expression of truth. If you copy me perfectly, you will only succeed in being a perfect copy. But if you question me, if you test my ideas against your own experience, you may surpass me. And that, my friend, is what every true teacher hopes for. I never wanted followers. I wanted explorers, men and women brave enough to challenge even me, because truth grows through challenge, not through worship. You see, the moment something becomes sacred and unquestionable, it begins to decay. Even truth, if not tested, becomes superstition. So never defend an idea simply because it is yours. Defend it only if it works. And the moment it stops working, have the courage to let it die. That, my friend, is integrity. Integrity means being loyal to reality, not to ego. It means having the humility to say, I was wrong. To stand alone in truth is harder than to march in a crowd of believers, but it is the only path worth walking. Every time I discarded something false, I became lighter. When you stop carrying what doesn't work, your movement becomes free, not just in body, but in spirit. That freedom is not recklessness, it is clarity. It is the ability to move without inner conflict. People often think freedom means doing whatever they want. That is not freedom. That is indulgence. Freedom is doing what is right without resistance. It is alignment between intention and action. When your mind, body, and spirit move as one, there is no friction, no hesitation. That is true power. Silent, effortless, unstoppable. Freedom requires discipline. Discipline creates structure. Structure refines freedom. They are partners, not enemies. Think of water again. Soft, yielding, but disciplined by nature. It always follows gravity. It respects the laws of motion. Because it obeys reality, it can adapt to anything. That is true discipline. So, when I train, I am not just training muscles. I am training awareness. I am teaching my mind to see without distortion, to respond without delay. That is the discipline that produces freedom. When I teach, I tell my students, don't look for control. Look for understanding. Control is temporary. Understanding is eternal. When you understand the principle behind movement, you can move in any way, under any condition. The same principle applies to life. When you understand why you live, your purpose, your truth, no situation can break you. You can adapt to loss, to change, to uncertainty because you are grounded in something deeper than circumstance. That is mastery, not of technique, but of self. I have seen champions who could defeat any opponent yet could not face their own fear. They mastered the fight outside but lost the fight within. And I have seen humble men, unknown to the world, who mastered themselves completely. They were free. So, I ask you, what is the use of conquering the world if you remain a stranger to yourself? The real battle is not against another man. It is against your own limitation, your own ignorance, your own illusion. When you win that battle, every other fight becomes simple. My friend, I once believed that knowledge itself was power. I read endlessly philosophy, psychology, art, science. But over time, I saw that knowledge alone changes nothing. People can know the right path and still refuse to walk it. Knowledge is potential, applied knowledge is power, but tested knowledge, that is truth. Knowledge that survives experience becomes wisdom, and wisdom is the only power that cannot be taken from you. That is why I say, knowledge is cheap, understanding is priceless. When I speak of testing, people imagine it is physical, a fight, a challenge. But testing is everywhere. Every conversation tests your patience. Every disappointment tests your courage. Every day tests your commitment to truth. If you meet each test consciously, you grow. If you avoid them, you shrink. Life itself is the dojo, the place of practice. The world is constantly sparring with you, not to defeat you, but to reveal you. Each conflict, each failure is a mirror showing what you still need to master. Do not resent these mirrors. Thank them. They are your teachers. When you begin to see life this way, even pain becomes useful. Pain is feedback. It tells you where you are resisting reality. Learn to listen to it. When my back was injured, the doctors told me I might never fight again. For months, I could not train. I felt trapped inside my own body, but that period became one of the most creative times of my life. I wrote, I studied, I meditated. I realized that while my body was limited, my mind was infinite. That lesson changed me more than any fight. You see, adversity strips away the unnecessary. It forces you to confront what truly matters. It teaches humility. So do not fear obstacles. They are the sculptors of your spirit. The world today worships speed, accumulation, noise. But I tell you, mastery is quiet. It moves like breath, invisible, but essential. It doesn't shout, it doesn't show off, it simply is. The true master is not the one who wins loudly, but the one who understands silently. That is why I avoid calling myself a master. I am a student of truth, of movement, of life. As long as I live, I will keep questioning, testing, refining, because the moment you call yourself a master, you stop learning. Mastery is not a title. It is a direction, a lifelong journey into greater honesty. When I teach, I tell my students that Jeet Kune is not about becoming like me. It is about becoming more you. Each punch, each kick, each movement is a form of self-expression. Through movement, you reveal your character, your emotion, your truth. That is why I say, martial arts are not about fighting. They are about expressing yourself honestly. When your movement and your mind are one, that is art. And the same principle applies beyond the dojo. If you are a writer, write honestly. If you are a teacher, teach honestly. If you are a parent, love honestly. Whatever you do, do it without falsehood. Because honesty is the highest form of art. When a punch is honest, it lands. When a word is honest, it touches the heart. When a life is honest, it leaves a legacy. So, my friend, I ask you to live honestly. Question your beliefs until only truth remains. Question your habits until only effectiveness remains. Question your fears until only freedom remains. If you do this, you will discover that mastery is not something outside you. It is the uncovering of what has always been within you. Each test, each failure, each insight reveals a deeper layer of yourself. The more you understand yourself, the more you understand life. And when you truly understand life, you stop fighting it. You move with it, like water flowing downhill, effortless, unstoppable. That is the highest state of mastery, harmony with what is. But remember, my friend, understanding alone is not enough. You must act. You must bring truth into motion. Ideas are seeds, but only action makes them bloom. You can think about water forever and still die of thirst. You must drink it. You must live it. So take one idea from everything I've said, just one, and live it. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Apply it to your training, to your work, to your relationships. Test it, feel it, prove it. If it works, refine it. If it fails, learn from it. That single act of application will teach you more than 100 books. Remember, inspiration fades, action transforms. Do not walk away from this talk feeling merely inspired. Walk away ready to test, ready to act, ready to grow. Because the difference between the student and the master is not knowledge, it is application. The master keeps applying, keeps refining, keeps questioning, until truth becomes instinct. That is why I continue to practice daily even after years of teaching. I practice not to be perfect, but to stay honest. Because truth is alive, and to stay with it, you must stay alive too. So, my friend, as you go forward, remember these final words. Mastery begins the moment you dare to question everything. Limits exist only for those who refuse to test them. Real mastery isn't learned, it's discovered. Stop memorizing. Start understanding. If you remember nothing else, remember this. The truth is not something you find in me or in any teacher. It is something you uncover in yourself. Now, my friend, go test it. Go live it. Go become it.